Hello, I'm Steve from Review Shark,
What's up, Benjad? It's your main man Bryman here.
and we are here today to talk about movies, aren't we?
Yeah, that's correct.
Right, so first thing on the table we are going to talk about is Michael Bay. Um, what is your main opinion on Michael Bay, Bryman?
Well, I think Michael Bay has grown increasingly bombastic. I think in my opinion, there's a bit of a wrong interpretation of him that most people have is the fact that he's always been like this. And whilst I've not been following him for a while, I think what he's done is that in the past he's made decent films, with decent dialogue, but the spectacle's what was praised, and so he's now cut out all of that in compromise for the spectacle, which unfortunately no longer carries the emotion or the weight, so that no one cares. It's just making not less quality, in my opinion.
All right, I agree with you in the sense that I agree with you saying that he's gone for spectacle more than he's gone for anything, but I think he's ditched all that and he's gone for scope. And I mean, it's proved lately with his Transformers movies. It's also proved with that ridiculous movie Pain and Gain, and his latest one, which is that Benghazi film. Now, I mean, admittedly, the Benghazi film is his best, it's his best film lately. But I have a problem with him making true stories into a actual film because when he did Pain and Gain, he completely forgot about the actual story, and he ended up making it into his own. Transformers, I think, has become boring because it's just too many explosions on screen. Um, you're right. I think you're right. He has always been like this. But the thing is, some of them. I mean, like if you look at The Rock. I mean, The Rock was quite. It is his best film, The Rock. I think.
Now, did he direct the New Mutant Ninja Turtles films, or was
No,
he
no,
just the producer?
he's producing it. I mean, I mean, in the latest one, there is a scene in it where it shows a bit of it shows a transformer in the middle of the Day of the Dead ceremony, and I think it was kind of a nod to Michael Bay. I mean, a thing is, you can say he's not directing, but you can see his fingerprints all over it.
Yeah, it was all over the first one. It was all over that one.
You can tell. Mm. Now, I think about Michael Bay as a director who doesn't. I think he makes films for 13-year-olds, maybe. Kids who are interested in just seeing explosions and not there for anything else. And they also like looking at the girls in the film. I mean, that's why Megan Fox was in it for the first three films. And then well, sorry, for the first two, Megan Fox was in it. And then that blonde girl came in. And then the underage one came in it in the fourth one. I think it, it, it annoys me that Michael Bay is making films that are just pandering to 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds just through the explosions and the girls. I think it annoys me that is because I know he can do so much better because the example is The Rock. He can make movies that are smart and intelligent, which really annoys me that he doesn't do it anymore.
Yeah, I completely agree. But also, as a person, on Megan Fox, he's not that, he doesn't seem to come across as that nice of a person. Didn't he really, really annoy Megan Fox at one point, to the point
Well,
of quitting or something?
Megan Fox has been quoted as calling Michael Bay like Hitler,
Hitler, yeah.
and
Hitler.
that kind of tells you everything you need to know about Michael Bay, really. I mean, there's a thing on. I mean, the popular YouTube channel Screen Junkies. They were doing an honest trailer commentary on the Transformers movie, and they were talking about how it annoys them that those movies exist because literally you can tell that the girl's only there for eye candy.
Yeah.
And also when TJ Miller was in the new Transformers, and Michael Bay was very apparently. I mean, this isn't confirmed, but this is apparent from credible sources. And apparently, T.J. Miller came out and said that Michael Bay said, "What's wrong with you, T.J.? I thought you were supposed to be funny. You're supposed to be really funny, T.J. Be funny, T.J., or I'll fucking fire you." I was just a bit like, "Why?" And it annoys me. I mean, I'm obviously might be getting cynical, but I'm just saying it just annoys me how he like Transformers: Age of Extinction is one of the worst rated movies of all time, and it still is able to make over $1 billion worldwide. How is this possible?
But that's why he's never going to stop making movies because there's always going to be the people that keep going back and back to him no matter what he pumps out, how bad it is. that he's always going to be employable because people go to see his movies for reasons unknown to me personally.
Reasons unknown to man, Ryman, mate. I think it's reasons unknown to man. Why on earth
I
is this
mean,
guy still making movies?
ridiculous.
um, all right. Well, I'm going to move on from Michael Bay because it's a subject I get quite annoyed at. Um,
Yeah, I think we both more or less agree on the
yeah.
future
Okay.
of him.
Right. So I think just now we're going to go in. I'm going to have a bit of an overview of movies that are coming up that you're excited for. So, what are you excited to see this for the rest of 2016?
Well, I'm not sure in regards to 2016, but what I am really, really excited to is the other Jungle Book movie. You know, how it will compare to the other one. You know,
Oh, you mean
what
the
it
Andy
will do.
Serkis one?
Yeah, yeah, and I think it'll be different, like a different interpretation, and also in regards to, I know you've got a prevalent issue with superhero fatigue, but I think what really could solve that, in my opinion, could be Doctor Strange, even though I can see another angle where it's more or less a rehash of the first Iron Man in a different setting.
Doctor Strange. I mean, I don't actually. For some reason, I'm looking at Doctor Strange, and I'm not seeing Doctor Strange as a superhero movie. I'm just seeing it as like a fantasy because it doesn't seem really Marvel-y because it's not part of the MCU yet.
Yeah,
So I'm
and I think
kind of.
that's what they're going for, especially with the different Marvel logo at the start of it. I think they're really trying to bring in a whole entire realm to set up the future, maybe for Thanos or whatever.
I mean, I mean, when I saw the first trailer, I was kind of interested. Second trailer, I was a little bit more interested. And the one they showed at Comic Con just blew me away. It made me, because Benedict Cumberbatch, it's just shown that he can sell films. I mean, look at Star Trek Into Darkness. That film sold like mad. But I mean, this one looks entertain. It just looks like entertainment. That's what I think. And I mean, as I say, You said about superhero fatigue. Yes, I'm in this thing where I'm getting a little bit bored of the only films I see in the cinema these days are superheroes, remakes, sequels, or prequels. And
Yeah, there's definitely an oversaturation of them, especially when there's not an alternative for casual moviegoers to go to if they're not interested in that genre.
no, exactly. And I mean, what have we got coming up at the end of this year? I mean, all I can say is that there aren't any standouts to me apart. There is one that I want to discuss, which is Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you think about? What do you think of what you've seen so far of that film?
Well, I like how they've tapped into the nostalgia of the trailers, adding in the old soundtracks. But the one thing that I really don't like about it, which I think is the same for all sequels, is no matter what happens in that world, it's in the past. So without there being any reference to it in the current films that we've got, there's no way that the impact can be that dire.
Mm, well, you see, I was interested when I saw the Fantastic Beasts trailer because the first thing that drew me to it was that Eddie Redmayne's in it, and I think Eddie Redmayne's a fantastic actor. He did a really good job as playing Stephen Hawking in The Theory of Everything. I think that movie sold him to me as a good actor because he knows how to do character pieces. And then he made that god awful movie Jupiter Ascending, which from going from such a high to such a low, I couldn't understand. It's like watching Ben Affleck when he did the movie Argo in 2013, then did Runner Runner. Yeah, that movie, I runner away.
Cool. Yeah, I didn't see that one, but I don't think it was very well received for the most part,
Runner
wasn't
Runner, it was like 12%. It was awful. Jupiter Ascending was just visually good to look at, but the rest of the movie was pants. Um, but I mean, the films that I'm looking forward to this year the most now is Doctor Strange and Fantastic Beasts. I mean, I'm looking through the release schedule so far. The Magnificent Seven comes out soon. I mean, I'm not interested in that really, but are you interested at all?
it? Not particularly,
No,
no.
I
I've
mean, I
not. I'm
was.
not even if it's a sequel. Is it a sequel?
Nah,
There was a
it's,
Magnificent
it's a
Six, which I didn't
rehash.
see.
It's a remake rehash, and I'm a bit annoyed that they keep remaking films. I mean, look at it so far. We've had Blair Witch Project, which came out. It's not excellent and it's not awful at the same time, but I think I'm getting bored of prequels, sequels, and remakes. Deepwater Horizon's coming out this year. Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Kids. Um, The Girl on the Train, actually, that's a good film. So apparently that's meant to be a really good film. Um, so far the trailers make it look like a very dark, depressing movie, which is interesting. Next thing I'll say is Inferno. Have you seen the trailer for Inferno?
No, I've not managed to catch that.
Right.
What's it about?
Have you heard of Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's the
Oh,
one.
so that's the third one.
It's the third one, Inferno.
Yeah, I actually have seen that, but one of the ones before another video, so I just kind of skipped the majority of it. But I've seen a bit of it.
I'm interested just because I quite I as a guilty pleasure I kind of like the Da Vinci Code, but Angels and Demons is a bit dumb. But the Da Vinci Code, guilty pleasure. So I'm kind of
Yeah.
excited to see what they do with this one. So I'm just looking through the rest of this year's release schedule. Rogue One, Star Wars: The Rogue One.
Now, this is an awkward thing because currently now I've got all of the original every single Star Wars movie up to date in my wardrobe. All of them is still in the casing. I've been meaning to get round to them. I've actually never watched a single one. Like, I really need to get caught up with that.
Rogue One looks like a really, really good war movie, which has got a lot of heart to it. I think, Abrams did. I think J.J. Abrams has done a really, really, really good job of rebooting the series after the travesty that was Star Wars 1, 2, and 3, which was oh god, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith. The Force Awakens, which was number 7, was one of the best reboots I've ever seen in my life. And I was thinking to myself, I don't like reboots, but then I watched this one and I thought, you know what, I actually quite like that reboot. That was the best film I'd seen for a while, and I'm interested. That's all I'm going to say, as I'm interested. Then we've got Assassin's Creed, which, of course, I've played the games. It might have what I call gameitis, which is video games don't translate to film very well. I mean, if you look at the beginning of the year, we had Warcraft, which I thought was an absolute arse of a film because it didn't actually entertain me whatsoever. The Assassin's Creed trailer looks promising, but again, it may have gameitis, which is going to be a problem.
Yeah, like I know I kind of feel a bit daft with this in hindsight, but one film I think it's been out for a while, but the one film that I thought was really going to tackle gameitis, and I know this is absolutely stupid on me for thinking so, just purely for the fact that who did it was Adam Sandler's Pixels because the trailers looked good, and the premise was good, and in Adam Sandler fashion, he just mucked it up so badly, and I really didn't like.
Well,
I don't think we're going to get over
I mean,
the gameitis, to be
I've never
honest.
liked. I mean, you say about Adam Sandler. I've never liked Adam Sandler. I think the only good film I've seen with Adam Sandler's Punch Drunk Love. That was a very heartfelt movie, but the rest of it's all been kind of naff. And it's. I mean, just you want to see a perfect example? Watch the scene where, first scene in Grown Ups 2, where the deer pisses on him in the bed. It's like, oh my god, this is awful. Um,
And then he's just screaming, thinking it's going to be funny.
yeah, and he does stupid voices. I'm just like, oh, go away. That's what I feel with Adam Sandler. Really, never liked him. So, but anyways, we'll move on a bit from the stuff that you're looking forward to. What have you enjoyed this year in the cinemas?
Well, I've not really seen that many this year. Again, like I said, I think we've got conflicting views, but I enjoyed Civil War, but this is odd because when I saw X-Men Apocalypse, I went out of that enjoying it more than I did with Civil War in terms of enjoyment factors, if that
You
kind of
see,
makes sense.
I had the thing with with Captain America Civil War, whereas I just thought, the funny thing is, this is the same sort of plot as the DC. They basically DC, Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice, and Captain America were basically the same plot line. But what they tried to do
And
is because
they even came out and said that. Sorry, sorry.
I mean, if I look at it, I
The-
mean, you know how critics absolutely hate Batman Superman. In actual fact, I don't like Batman versus Superman as much as I dislike Civil War. I mean, I actually like Batman Superman more than I like Civil War, just because I when I saw Civil War, I just thought this is dull. Just because it didn't add any entertainment value. I mean, that scene in the airport was interesting to watch, just as a technological spectacle. But as anything else, I was just a bit like, this is exposition. This is more boring exposition. Oh no, Bucky Barnes, blah 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 blah. Yeah, again, Captain America, blah blah blah. I don't like Captain America, blah blah. And Batman Superman was all kind of just depressing uh, until the 7 minute fight scene with Batman Superman, which was excellent to watch, but it had a stupid ending. But Civil War was not on my good list. That's all I'm gonna say.
What sides were you on for both films?
What do you mean?
Like Team Batman, Team Superman, Team Iron Man, Captain
I
America?
was on neither
What?
for the DC out DC films. I don't haven't seen enough of the characters to make an opinion on who I want to be on the side of. Uh, Captain America Civil War. I was on Iron Man's side, just because of that. I think Iron Man is possibly the best character in the in the MCU, just because he's clever. He knows exactly what he's doing. Captain America just is able to hit people with a shield. Whereas Iron Man is a technological genius, and I think he'll be able to destroy the world, which is something he can do, and he also has the intelligence to know what he's doing. Captain America, I don't really think does, which is why I sort of felt if a war's going to happen, I want to see Iron Man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing with that, I think Iron Man did kind of the wrong things, but for the right reasons, whereas Cap probably did the right things for absolutely the wrong reasons.
I agree, but Civil War was not good for me. I know a lot of people love it, and I can understand people like that movie, and I don't. I like the fact that there is a difference of opinion in the world, but for me, it wasn't. It wasn't really that good. Batman.
I think most of the first part was unnecessary. The fact that they were building up more tragedy when there was about 8 movies of tragedy that they could have just jumped off of.
Yeah, I agree. Um, Batman Superman was good, but Batman Superman was awful, but there was a couple of good scenes. I kind of questioned Zack Snyder's approach to that film at some point because the plot was kind of convoluted and they stuffed way too much into that film. So, I mean, and they made a 3 hour cut of it, didn't they? They made the Batman Superman Ultimate Cut, which was 3 hours and 8 minutes, and I watched that and I thought, God, this is more boring than the original version. Then I watched Civil War and I was just like, I'm more bored watching this than I was watching Batman Superman. But you bring up X Men Apocalypse, actually. That was a good one. I'm glad you brought that up, actually.
Yeah, I really did enjoy that. I think the critics were way too harsh on it, to be
I
honest.
think
Like, it wasn't a perfect movie by a long shot, but it was not. It was nowhere near as bad as people were saying it
I
was.
I completely agree with you on that one. I actually agree with you because I saw that midnight launch, X Men Apocalypse, so I went to the IMAX to watch that. That movie, it blew me away with just how interesting it made the characters, and we've now been introduced to the young Jean Grey. We've been introduced to Nightcrawler at the young age, and I'm interested because Bryan Singer has done a decent job of introducing the characters. He's also done a decent job of entertaining me. I mean, I think what the thing with critics was that the critics were expecting an excellent movie because of Days of Future Past. Because Days of Future
Yeah.
Past was basically Bryan Singer trying to erase X Men: The Last Stand.
Yeah, so people were thinking, right, now it's going to be absolutely no errors what they intended.
Exactly. Now, I am looking at it from that perspective, and I'm thinking, yeah, I understand the critics, but as a person who just wants to be entertained, I was thoroughly entertained, and I don't care what you say. I'm actually really entertained. Obviously, they were taking a good crack at the third film in that film because one of the
Oh, yeah,
lines,
that Star Wars
the
reference.
line where he said we can all agree the third one's the worst. Yeah,
Did you see the one before that, the deleted mall scene?
yeah. I've watched all deleted stuff. It was
No, I
really
loved
funny.
the
Really.
Quicksilver scene. That
Oh
that
yeah,
just
you
blew me
mean
away.
the
That.
the Quicksilver Mansion scene?
Yeah, and it was like what sweet dreams, and he was just, it was slow motion around him, but he was going quick, unlike
It's
Quick Days of Future Past, when you could tell he was going that speed. He was going full pelt with that, and it
It
was
was.
amazing.
I always liked Quicksilver though. I think they understand the character of Quicksilver a lot more in the Fox Marvel universe than they do in the MCU. Just because in the MCU he dies very quickly. You know, Aaron Taylor Johnson plays him. He dies, and then you look at the same character named Peter Maximoff, and Peter Peter Maximoff in X Men is one of the best characters I think.
Yeah, they changed him quite a bit because it's Pietro in Age of Ultron, isn't it?
Yeah,
Because of his Sokovian
yeah.
backgrounds and whatnot.
I don't like the idea. I mean, I didn't like Age of Ultron at all. I thought it was so dull, and I think it was life. I think they were trying. You know, the thing is, the trailers made it to be a dark film where Ultron was quite a sinister person, but when he
And it
came
didn't
on,
need to be doom and gloom. I like how they made him more jokey to fit in with the character of Tony Stark,
no, but
which is
Ultron.
one thing, but then making every single person unable to take anything seriously, that was the big problem.
I can't. I did not like Age of Ultron, and I'm gonna go on record by saying that was possibly the worst MCU film I've seen. Actually, no.
Wow.
Actually, no. It's not. It's the second worst after the Incredible Hulk. No, that was a turd. I've never seen a movie which genuinely made me want to punch the person who acted it in the face
Wow.
because I didn't think it was the Hulk, and that's the thing. Edward Norton is a very good character actor, but I don't think he's fit to play a superhero.
I think they did buy it. Like they borrowed a lot of content from the TV show. I think, even up to the theme song, "The Loneliest Man," that played for a while. They were always trying to remind us of the TV show, which they needed to remember that a majority of the audience weren't aware of that.
Yes, I agree. Um, you so we're going to go back to another topic. You like the Jungle Book?
Yes.
A question: what did you actually like about that film?
Well, I think, well, visually for starters, the fact that it was like, I'm not sure if you've seen it, but the fact that it was in a building which was like completely blue with a few logs and John Favreau with Neil Seddy, but the fact that they made it look so realistic in comparison, I'm not sure if you saw the Tarzan movie,
Oh, you
which
mean the
just
Legend
looks,
of Tarzan?
yeah, which is like completely
That was
unrealistic. Like they just filmed it in the Rainforest Cafe.
it was a
I
train.
think
It was a
if
train.
not for not what was in it, but the Jungle Book deserves praise for its visuals alone, in my opinion. If maybe you had an issue with what was in it.
Yeah, well, a little bit. I think um, the thing is, I'm so nostalgic. I like the original. I'm always going to like the original, um, just because the original it understood what it was, whereas this one, I watch it and I don't really think it understands what it is.
I think if it did understand it too much, it would have been a complete rehash of the cartoon, the animation, which, whilst that would have been nice, I think for the newer demographic, they've got a definitive Jungle
Yeah,
Book. You know,
but the new demographic needs to be reminded of, needs to be shown what it was like when the original film came out. The original film was groundbreaking. I think it was a spectacle which no one could do. Unlike, Disney himself was involved in this movie, and for Disney to be involved in a movie himself, this tells you exactly how good the original film was. Whereas I think you're looking at the new one, I think fine, you've made a live action version of a movie, but it takes away the original spirit of what Walt Disney was looking for.
yeah, I have no doubt that the golden age of Disney is more or less gone. But what I'm saying is, because in relative terms quite young, when I look at a black and white movie, which is supposedly groundbreaking and amazing, I know this is probably me just being short-minded, but I instantly go, right, that's not up to the HD standard. I'm not interested in that. The same thing with The Great Gatsby. I think that the original one was better, but the new one had, all that catchy soundtracks and the spectacle that
Well,
borrowed into the scene itself,
it's
and
direct.
that was kind of more appealing. I think that it will bring us in. So maybe, hey, you like this Jungle Book? Well, here's the original one that I grew up with. Look at the differences. Look at the similarities. Enjoy both of them now.
I get where I understand where you're coming from. But I understand. I, I don't like people messing with films that I really like and are widely renowned as some of the best films of all time. I
I,
just
I
don't like it.
respect that absolutely, but by the same point, I think you were showing the exact same thing with your Ghostbusters review.
But the thing is, when I saw Ghostbusters, I was completely surprised by it. I saw that movie. I went into that movie thinking, great, this is going to be awful. I came out of that movie smiling because I thought that movie, it was new. It was actually, in its own right, it was new. It was really funny. And
Yeah,
also,
I haven't seen it. I had high hopes for it just because I enjoyed Spy so much.
I
I'm
think
hopefully going to get it on DVD, the
I
new
think
Ghostbusters.
I think Ghostbusters was excellent. I think it was one of it's. I'd say it's my surprise of the summer, that one, just because I enjoyed it that much. I'm looking at. I mean, my summer's been pretty full of movies. I've seen. I mean, I'll talk about another one in a minute. I'm going to talk about Star Trek Beyond. Um, Now, I wasn't entertained by that just because the script wasn't as strong as the first two. That's only my personal view, though. Some people really liked it, and I really hated it. What's your opinion on the state of the Star Trek movies from J.J. Abrams films and stuff like that? I mean, I'm interested to hear what you think about this because there's a very big difference of opinion in these.
Well, the thing is, I think, and this might be completely off, completely contradictory to what I just said in terms of visual effects, but I think that one of the charms of Star Trek in the past had been how low budget the first one was and how they managed to incorporate that into adding to the story. Like they still managed to do it, but you had snappy dialogue, charismatic characters, and it didn't matter. Whereas now, I think maybe kind of like Michael Bay, kind of not. It is more emphasized on the visual effects as opposed to having characters that you care about. Not to the extent of Michael Bay, but, nowhere near that. But still, I think it does suffer from that a fair bit.
Right. Okay. I'm with you on that. I'm with you, but at the same time as I'm not because I'm always going to say because I like the original stuff. I'm a next generation type fan. I'm always going to be a next generation fan, and I'm looking at this new Star Trek. I mean, Zachary Quinto, he's definitely good as Spock. I think he is the standout. I mean, Chris Pine doesn't. I don't think he shows Kirk as much as I want him to. But again, you can't have again you can't have everything you want in the world. But I just think mm, I like it a lot more than well, I don't know. What are your thoughts and views on the actors in Star Trek then?
Well, I'm not really a big follower of the Star Trek series, to be honest, and I'm not seeing the one upcoming, like the trailers or anything, any promotional material, just the latest one, which is where I got my kind of opinion from it. And I saw the earlier ones quite late on as well.
I don't,
Don't really have an opinion, to be honest.
I'm not. I mean, right. Okay. If you're introducing, I mean, J.J. Abrams has done well of introducing these characters into the new Star Trek universe. I like what he's done. I really do, but sometimes it pisses me off that this movie does. I think it doesn't pay respect to the older ones as much as I'd want it to pay respect. Now, I don't know whether I'm just being cynical, arsey, or stuff like that. But I'm just saying, I feel like I would enjoy it more if they paid more respect. I mean, they kind of talked about how old Spock and that lot was in this film. Sorry, in the original film, they had old Spock coming back for the first couple of films, and I was very excited for that because I really, really liked Leonard Nimoy, and now that he's not here, obviously, rest in peace, Leonard Nimoy. Um, but now that he isn't here, I think the film's lost something.
So what do you think the best course of action should be? I'm not saying complete reboot, but how about a film with an entirely new crew on their own separate adventure? Like with Ghostbusters, as you say, they make it their own type thing.
Right. Okay. I think that. How can I say this? I think I would like to see Star Trek going back to its glory days. Whereas I think it was miles more entertaining when they are actually doing deep space exploration. The tension between all the characters and all that was extremely entertaining. Whereas I think this one, there's not really tension between the characters. I mean, they've made the love story between Uhura and Spock, but I think that's kind of forced, and I get a bit bored of it. I don't want a reboot because the reboots can either be really good or really bad. I think what I need them to do is I need them to make a movie which is kind of like Next Generation, a Next Generation style Star Trek. That's what I want to see. What do you think?
I think that would be good. There is going to be the problem of criticism from rehashing or whatnot. I think that I'm not really sure because obviously if they don't need a reboot, then what they do need to do is seriously rethink what they're putting out and how the characters behave. So there needs to be, I don't know, I think they need a new take on it, possibly a new screenwriter, director, something that will just bring some life into what was originally found, like, built upon.
I think a new writer is good because Robert Oricki's obviously proved he's not a good writer, which is why they ditched him for this one. And Simon Pegg's coming. I mean, I like Simon Pegg greatly, and I think his films are great, but I don't think his writing for Star Trek was any good. I feel like he was coming instead of coming at it as a writer. I think he came at it from a fanboy perspective. Which
Yeah, I had almost given up on Simon Pegg, to be honest, after absolutely everything, which I thought had potential that was wasted. But then, obviously, in Mission Impossible, I think he kind of proved himself to be a bit more than the goofy, funny guy that he slipped into in a Jim Carrey style fashion.
Yeah, yeah. Right, before we move on to the last two topics of today's show, I want to know your top five picks of the summer.
Ooh. Difficult, to be honest. I don't think I've seen that many to comment
Okay,
on it.
well,
No.
I'll give you my top five if you wish. Um, I think, no, this is going to be very controversial. What I'm going to say here: Independence Day Resurgence is number five. Central Intelligence is number four. Now You See Me 2 is at number three. Ghostbusters is at number two. And the first spot for me, right, okay, this is going to sound really, really bizarre from someone who really likes movies. The Nice Guys is number one. All these five films made my day. And they were a lot better than some of the other guff that I've seen this summer. Now,
From
one,
an enjoyment rate or a critical rate, like,
no, from both rating. I mean, if I'm looking from a different perspective, Suicide Squad I would put at number six because I like Suicide Squad, but I didn't like it that much that it'd be in my top five. I mean, my
I think
top.
the problem with that is that it's just that it was good, but
We'll get on to
not
Suicide.
what the trailers
We'll
promised.
get on to Suicide Squad in a minute when we've finished. When I've just finished this bit. My top five worst. Number five, I'm going to say Finding Dory, Warcraft, The Purge Election Year, the BFG, and then The Legend of Tarzan. Now I'm a hater of Finding Dory just because I don't like rehashes and it's just the same sort of storyline and it just got boring.
What did you make of Blair Witch?
Didn't like it. Thought it was dull. Thought it was a.
Conjuring 2?
I thought, well, the Blair Witch was just as dull as the first one, which the original, which I just was like, nah. I've not seen The Conjuring 2, and I don't intend to, just because I didn't like the first one.
Yeah, I recently saw the first one actually. I watched the second one before the first one.
Yeah, all right, okay. So we're gonna get to our last two topics now, which is topic number one is what do you think about the state of the MCU, how it is going and where it's going? What do you think?
Well, it confuses me a lot because I'm not sure if you've been keeping up with the controversy on my channel or just in general, the general public about the ethnicity changes and just racial diversity within Spider-Man Homecoming, which is all fine and good. I think that's an oversaturated topic, to be honest. But then in that case, and this was probably for understanding reasons in terms of American audiences, but why do you think that Benedict Cumberbatch wasn't allowed to use his British accent in Doctor Strange?
Um, I'm not sure. Or maybe it fit what Stanley wanted to hear because Stanley wrote him maybe as an American.
I think yes, he's definitely been American in the past, but they're making so many changes in other characters to make sure that it's diverse that I think it was a shame. I think that it was something that audience would have wanted. Maybe make him more, maybe London based or somewhere else in England that's not New York, which we've seen countless other times in the MCU.
Hmm.
Now we have seen London in Thor: The Dark World, but my opinions on that movie aren't that high, to be honest. I would like to see, around England represented a bit more.
I mean, Alan Taylor directed the Thor: The Dark World, and I mean, Thor: The Dark World will always stand in memory as one of the worst film MCU movies because its story was kind of generic, and it was a little bit dull. Um, and I do agree with you. But I mean, the state of the MCU for me is that I think after Infinity War, I think there shouldn't be any more. I kind of feel like
I agree.
Infinity War is the last place you'd want to go for
Hmm.
in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. If we're looking at movies that are coming up after it, I mean, you got Black Panther, a possible a possible Iron Man 4, and
Inhumans was scrapped, wasn't it? That's still
yeah,
very.
Inhumans is going to get rebooted very soon, apparently.
Also, sorry if I keep cutting off or you hear noises, because I'm getting like loads of calls for some reason and I can't really find a way to stop them.
All right, okay, don't worry about it. Um, but I once they've done Infinity War, I think they should stop for a while and give it a bit of time off.
Yeah, the thing is, like, say Spider-Man 3, the new Spider-Man 3, that's going to come after Infinity War. So what are they going to do? I think at that point, it will just become not a series, but just this is happening because it's happening.
I think it's just. I think they're all going to become tedious after a while. I think that there's been that many Marvel films come out, and they're all basically the same movie. I think they're just becoming more dull, and that's my
But there
problem
needs
with
to
it.
be some payoff. If they continue much after Infinity War, it will just be right. All that was for nothing. There is a potential that if you grow up and have kids of your own, oh, here's Iron Man 24. He's nearly gonna die again, but he's
Exactly.
gonna save the day again. But you know, it's okay when your grandson grows up. There'll be Iron Man 68 who will nearly die and then save the world again.
Again, I completely understand with you on that one, and I genuinely I genuinely do dislike how the movies are going at the minute. I think they're all becoming stale and repetitive, and I want them to end. Um, but again, there have been some gems in it, and there have been some really bad. But I'm getting, as I say, superhero fatigue is a massive thing with me, and I'm getting to the point where I need them to stop making them. Okay, that's that point made, and then the last thing we talk about before I get to the comments from a couple of people who one of my guests who was meant to be on tonight has cancelled, so I've got a couple of his comments to read out about Michael Bay, and then we'll end the show after that, and I'll explain how the release schedule will work for this. Um,
Okay.
the DC universe? What is happening with that? And why? Question is, why is the critics not liking the DC universe? Now,
Well, I saw this funny post, this kind of funny post online, which basically said if the Marvel Universe was the same as DC, and it basically just had Iron Man, Civil War, Infinity War, which I definitely think it's what it's going for at the moment, because there was Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, and the Justice League. I don't think that they're invested. I know there's a problem of superhero fatigue, but limiting the movies at the expense of not caring about the majority of the characters isn't worth it, especially when Man of Steel, I felt that Superman was very unlikable throughout Batman vs Superman, and even Man of Steel to some extent.
well, see, the thing is, with Man of Steel, with me, I actually really liked the first sort of hour and a half, and then it went into explosions and it got a bit generic towards the end. But I think the rest of it was a decent Superman film. But
I
Batman,
was quite moved by the some of the relationships in that movie, especially considering with Superman and both sets of his parents. But I think that that kind of went away in Batman vs Superman, even though I don't think it's nearly as bad as some people say.
well, Batman Superman was a good. I mean, the fight was a good scene. Um, the scenes with, I think actually, question: do you think this Batman is better than Christian Bale? Do you think Ben Affleck is better than Christian Bale? And I was asked this question yesterday, and I was sort of questioning whether or not to say yes or no. I mean, I think Ben Affleck is the more sort of gritty, dark version of Batman that we've wanted to see for many, many years. Um, and I personally never liked Christian Bale just because he was a bit, he was a little bit dull. Um, and he was a bit too, I would say, forceful with what he was trying to do. I think he became predictable after a while. But Ben Affleck, I think he's done. I think he's a really decent Batman, and I'd like to hear what you'd think about him.
Now, I'm going to bring both of them together. I think that what would have made it the perfect Batman is if the Dark Knight series was canon, for the fact that you're in a dark, gritty universe, you don't kill bad guys because it's against your policy, and whilst the three of them aren't, as realistic as people say, because it's a guy in a bat costume, it's not going to be that realistic, but it is a gritty universe, and then all of a sudden take Man of Steel into that same timeline, completely different dynamic, completely different reality, and then you get the very traumatized Batman from Batman versus Superman, who's seen this change in world and change in reality, and the fact that his gritty universe is now populated with aliens that literally rain destruction on the Earth, which leads him to change his ideology. So he does kill out of fear, frustration at the power that he doesn't have. I think that Ben Affleck's Batman would be perfect if it was the same Batman as the Dark Knight trilogy, but with a different actor.
Okay, right. I'm with you. I'm with you on that one. Now, I'm going to move on to this topic quickly, which is the Suicide Squad. What did you feel about the Suicide Squad?
Well, I thought it was okay. It wasn't nearly what I was expecting from the trailers because
Well, they
the trailers were really good, but I don't think it wasn't as disappointing because I wasn't expecting it to be extremely good. It was kind of a middle ground for me. I thought it was okay. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't brilliant. I think the Joker definitely had some deleted scenes that would have benefited the movie a lot. But again, I don't think that that would have made it completely revolutionary.
do you like the Joker? Do you
I
like?
thought he was okay.
Do you
I
think
think
Jared Leto
if
was good?
if he was trying too much to be Heath Ledger, he would have got a lot of backlash from that.
Yeah, I do agree with you on that one. I think I'm always gonna say that Heath Ledger's Joker is the best Joker, just because he made it more human and he brought it into a realistic style. Instead of making superheroes like gimmicky superhero stuff, I think he made it more human. Um, Suicide Squad for me was a I think compared to Batman Superman, I think Suicide Squad is revolutionary just because Batman Superman wasn't good at really that good, whereas Suicide Squad was, it provided entertainment, and
Yeah, it was a positive for the DC
I think
universe.
it kicked. I mean, the thing is, if we look at the box office figures, I'll tell you exactly how much these films have made. So Batman Superman, so Batman versus Superman, I'll tell you, it cost a grand total of 250 million to make, and it made 800 million in the box office. So so you need to make the film a success. You have to double your budget and add another 100 million onto it. So it's roughly about 650 million. So it only made 200 million over its budget, which means it's a success in a sense, but it's not. But it's underperformed because most other films tend to make over a billion. So that's underperformed. And the Suicide Squad, it cost, oh god, it cost 175 million to make, and it made 700, which means it actually made 300 million more. So it made 300 million, which is 100 million more than Batman Superman did, which means it is actually it's actually moderately performed well. What does that tell you about the DC universe, though? I mean, I think that tells me a lot about the DC universe because it tells me that Batman Superman was a failure, and Suicide Squad, regardless of what the critics have said, has actually done moderately well.
Why do you reckon that is? Because I was gonna say
I think critics backed it.
that
I think when I read about it, I think lots of people said they were going to wait for the critics to see whether or not to go and see Batman versus Superman, and then they said the critics really put them off seeing it, but most people just bought it on Blu-ray anyway. So I think critics knocked people's confidence with that film, which is why it didn't make as much money. I mean, Suicide Squad. I think people just went to go and see it anyway because they had Harley Quinn, the first Harley Quinn you'll see in live action, and the Joker, which is Jared Leto, because they want to see it. So I think it made a lot more money because I genuinely think that people didn't care about what the critics were going to say about this one, the Suicide Squad, which is why it's made so much money.
Yeah, I agree. That's why there's a big difference between critics and the viewers, because at the end of the day, no matter what critics say, what people may be um, influenced by it, the people are going to like what they're going to like.
Well, at the end of the day, critics are just there to give you their opinion, and that's what we're here to do. We're just here to give you our opinion. Just if we don't like something, doesn't mean anyone else is gonna dislike it as well. I can't.
Yeah.
I mean, it's subjective. I think it's very subjective criticism.
Although what I
Microphone
will say,
muted.
I'm not excited for Man of Steel 2 at all.
Ah, yeah, I wasn't going to bring that up, but thank you. I totally agree with you. I think Superman needs to stop. What do you think of the Justice League trailer so far? What have you seen? The Justice League.
I think I don't want them to be full on Marvel,
No,
but they are. I think they are adding a good team dynamic into it, in the fact that they're adding jokes, but it still looks like it's going to have that gritty DC vibe to it.
yeah, I think they're trying to make it into a comedy, and that's what my problem is. I think they're trying to be too Marvel. And remember, you never go full Marvel, which is something you should never do. I think when I saw the trailer from Comic Con, I thought, so we're gonna have some Ben Affleck who's playing Batman, who's a gritty character, going into like campy 1960s Adam West style Batman. I don't think this is gonna work. And I mean, I think Ezra Miller as the Flash is interesting. I'm interested to see what he does because I don't like the Flash TV series. I want to see exactly what this Flash brings to the table. Aquaman, I'm interested to see him, and Wonder Woman. Yeah, okay, Wonder
I
Woman.
don't think. Sorry, I was just going to say that I don't think that adding humour will matter, because I don't think that there's many people that care enough about the DC Universe's lore in terms of the screen to actually, shout and scream when the vibes change. Whereas if the next Marvel movie was a DC film, people would have a big problem with that.
I agree. I agree totally. Um, that's all the topics for this week that's been covered. I'm going to read the comments from my friend. He says about Michael Bay. The first comment he came out with was, "Why is Michael Bay still in cinema?" Second comment is, um, his movies are all wank. And then his next comment is, "I bet his movies are all wank just because he ends up wanking in our faces and he makes money out of it." So I think I agree with him on all those comments. He also says that he felt Suicide Squad was lacking depth of characters, and so that brings the end of that one. Um,
Well, I agree, but I think Deadshot did a pretty good job.
I think Will Smith killed it. I think he was the standout.
Because I was not expecting a lot from him. I was expecting your bog
User
standard
joined
Will
your
Smith
channel.
performance, but I genuinely think that he tried very hard on that movie.
I very agree. Um,
Sound
I'm
muted.
going to be okay. So that brings us to the end of the topics today. Is there any more remarks you have to say, Joel? Sorry, Mr. Bryman.
No, not really. No, I'm completely fine, thank you. That was a brilliant.
You've We have lost Joel.
You were moved.
We have lost him, I'm afraid. Mr. Bryman, are you still there?
Yes.
All right. Sorry, you accidentally got cut up. Ended up cutting you off there. What was it you said?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I just thought that it was very good. I've got nothing much to add besides just a shameless self-advertising, just to direct you to the Bryman channel where I'll be talking shite on the internet.
Well, all right. Links will be in the description to his channel as always. I am Steve Carr here from Review Shark, and the final thing I'm going to say is these podcasts will be as regular as I can make them, as regular as the schedules can say, and
Yeah, and I'll be able to contribute to that whenever needed.
yeah, of course. I mean, I might do. I'm booking a guest next week, so we'll hope to see how that goes. Um, so this podcast will be 10 p.m. GMT every time I upload, and thank you, for watching. And the last thing is, all I can say is, Brian, are you still listening with me?
Yep.
And remember, just to remind you, Review Shark is no longer going to be a thing fully now. It is going to be back to Review Network, as I now own the rights to the Review Network. So Review Network is officially back.
Yay.
So you'll see more content from us very soon. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
See ya.